This is Research Like a Pro, Episode 12, Productivity. Welcome to Research Like a Pro, a genealogy podcast about taking your research to the next level, hosted by Nicole Dyer and Diana Elder, accredited genealogy professional. Diana and Nicole are the mother-daughter team at FamilyLocket.com and the creators of the Amazon best-selling book, Research Like a Pro, a Genealogist Guide. I'm Nicole, co-host of the podcast. Join Diana and me as we discuss how to stay organized, make progress in our research, and solve difficult cases. Let's go. Welcome to Research Like a Pro today. We're excited to be here talking about productivity. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Diana.
And today we will talk about how to make the best use of your family history time. We all have limited time. We have the same 24 hours a day, but it doesn't seem like enough. So how can we use that the best? We also wanted to remind you that if you write us a review and ask us a question, then we will share that on the podcast during this time and answer the question. So we hope that you guys will do that. And the way to leave us a review is to go to Stitcher and search for Research Like a Pro podcast, and then scroll to the bottom, click write a review. And then you don't have to sign in or anything. You just put your name and your email address, which won't be published, and you put a nickname, and then you write a little review. So we hope that you can do that. And you can also do that in iTunes. Okay, let's jump right into how to make the best use of your family history time. So Diana, what do you do so that you can not get so stressed out with all the things you're doing? Because you are so busy.
Oh my goodness, yes. This productivity is just like a huge thing in my life right now. So one of the things that I learned quite a while ago, and I started doing this when I was doing preparation for accreditation, when I had to work so intensely on my 4th-generation project and studying, and it was the Pomodoro technique, which is simply that you set a timer for 25 minutes and you set your intention and you focus and you work really hard for those 25 minutes on whatever you're doing. And then when the timer goes off, you get up, you take a 5-minute break, and I like to go walk downstairs, go outside, walk around a little bit, get some fresh air. And then you come back and you repeat, and you do that for 2 hours basically. And then you have a little bit longer break after 2 hours. So I set up my work day with the schedule in mind in 2-hour blocks. And it is amazing how well it works for me, because I am doing that really intense, focused research when I'm working on a client project and I'm deep into the records and trying to make connections with dates and people and places. I have to focus so hard that if I am not careful, if I don't have a timer set, I can literally sit at my computer for like an hour and a half without even moving, focusing, and then I can hardly walk when I stand up because I'm so stiff. So having a timer is great. And you might think that it's really annoying to break up your work like that. But what I find is that when I get up and move around, my brain is still working. I'm still thinking of all the stuff I've been doing. I'm just no longer looking at a screen, and it lets my brain reset. It kind of helps me to think of things. It really has been for me a great technique to use with these really focused projects that I do. And also just with any type of a thing. Like for instance, if you're sitting down to do something really boring that you really hate doing, but you have to do it. I have those tasks as well, and I'll set my timer and I'll say, okay, I just have to do it for 25 minutes. I will clear out all my emails. I just have to focus on that for 25 minutes. And that works wonders too, because, it's kind of like racing the clock. What can I get done? Can I get this all done in this time frame? So I guess I have the personality that works really well for, but I love that. And then yeah, you would like it. The other thing that's really great that I learned years and years ago was to keep a research notebook. And so I have a spiral bound research notebook right on my desk. And every day I sit down, I put the date on it, and I have 3 goals, 3 things I want to get done that day. And I chose 3. I used to have a lot longer list. I used to have a really long list. And then, when you only get 2 or 3 things done, then you feel like you kind of had a failure of a day. And I listened to a podcast a while ago, and they said, just put down 3 things, 3 important things you need to get done. And that works great for me. So I will put down 3 objectives for my work of the day and check them off when I finish them. If I don't quite get one done, that can go to the next day. But that has been really, really useful for me in helping me feel like I'm accomplishing things and helping me get things done. So my research notebook is great. Now, the other thing I do with it is when I'm working on, for instance, like the Family Search Family Tree, I talked about this in the Research Logs podcast. Sometimes I'm just doing easy things like attaching hints, standardizing dates, kind of cleaning up the tree. And I need a place to record what I did that day and where to pick up next time I come back to that family. And so that can go in my research notebook as well. And I write little notes on there sometimes about, something I need to do in the future. So it's just a spiral bound notebook that is my extension of my brain to help keep me organized.
So you are keeping track of like your family history research there, but you mentioned that you write down 3 goals also for work. So do you sometimes write down 3 goals that are work, other tasks that you're working on too outside of your genealogy research?
Yes, they can be things a little bit outside of my specific research because I do wear a lot of hats. I'm the ICAP Gen presentation specialist, so I might have to work on a presentation that day, or I might need to do a proposal for Roots Tech for a class, those type of things. So it's all genealogy related. It's all my work related, but not necessarily specifically research sometimes. Okay. So it's basically things I have to do at my computer, that has to get done while I am at my desk at my computer. So
you're not working on like 3 different research projects a day type of thing.
No. In fact, if I do a research project, I will put, like if it's a client project, I'll say 4 hours on this client project. And that's one of my items that I need to get to that project for that many hours that day.
How many hours do you typically work a day on? Like if you work, is that how you do it? 4 hours at a time? Like one day you would have a 4-hour block that you do research?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Depending on the day and what I need to get done. I typically do 2-hour blocks of client research. So I'll do 2 hours on a project, take a little break, and then come back and maybe do 2 more hours in the afternoon or what have you. Just because those hours are pretty intense and focused, I kind of like to break it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. So that is what I do. And if it's my own research project, then I have to schedule that in. 2 hours on my Dillard project or, whatever project I'm working on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk about a tool called Google Keep now. So I use Google Keep to keep track of to-do lists, and I know that you have started using Google Keep also. What do you like to use it for?
I use Google Keep to keep track of all the different projects that I have. So, if I am working on a presentation, so for instance, I have a presentation coming up in Kansas City, going out there to do an accreditation presentation. So I have a Google Keep note that talks about, getting the slides done and getting some examples ready, all the little things that I need to think about for that particular event. So I have basically an electronic sticky note. Mm-hmm. So for all the different things that I'm doing, I have a sticky note in Google Keep with the list of things that need to be done for that specific event or that project. That's what I do with it. How do you use it?
I use it very similarly. There's a lot of ways you could use it, but I have different colors for each sticky note, and some of them pertain to specific family history research projects that I'm doing. And then some of them are just for like my menu for the week of what I'm going to cook for dinner. And I like it because I can access it from my phone, laptop, or from my computer, my desktop. So it's nice to have it on all my devices. But for genealogy research productivity, I like to put different kinds of projects that I'm working on because we often have like a photo scanning project or organizing all these documents or the research project to discover this and a bunch of different tasks that we need to do, like order that document and scan these documents. So it's nice to be able to kind of put everything that you're working on for a certain kind of project onto a nice organized list and just kind of drag it and drop it into order so that you know I need to do this first and then this, so that when you do have time to work on your projects, you can go to your sticky notes and say, okay, I want to do this one today, and this is the next task that I need to do. And then when you're done, you can check it off. There's a little box, and when you click the box, it adds a check mark to it and then crosses it off and puts it down at the bottom, kind of grayed out. So it's a really fun way that people like me can get a hit of dopamine by checking something off my list. It's so great. I love that feeling. So if that's something that is fun for you too, then you can try Google Keep. Another thing that helps with Google Keep is you can add collaborators to your notes. So Diana and I have a sticky note that we work on together that has some tasks that we need to get done for the podcast and the website. And then we can see different tasks that are on the list and work on them together. And another thing that I've tried doing recently is creating reminders on your list. And the reminder is attached to Google Calendar. So if you use Google Calendar as your daily planner, like I do, then you can see what tasks you need to get done that day. You can also change the color of the sticky note and add labels, which are like tags, and you can put different labels on each one. And you can have multiple labels. So you can put locations, or you can put family surnames or categories, whatever you want to do to categorize your notes. And then another feature I like to use in Google Keep is to pin the notes to the top. So your notes all appear kind of like a big bulletin board. And unless you pin it to the top, then they all just kind of are in whatever order you created them in. So sometimes if I have a really important project, I pin that one to the top so that I can always see that first. And that's a great feature. So Google Keep is helpful for productivity because it helps you to not chase off on bright, shiny objects or doing tasks that come in through email, because you can just, focus your attention on what's most important in your list. And if you're working on a genealogy research project and you have an idea, you can just go to Google Keep and put down your idea there and come back to it later. So you don't have to feel like, if I don't do this now, I'll forget. Just make a note of it in your sticky note for that research project, and then you can do it later when it's the right time. And another thing that I wanted to share is that the mobile app for Keep allows you to record audio. So if you like to record notes to yourself, but you don't like typing them out, you can just click the record button, and then you'll have an audio recording of yourself talking. So that's a fun one. And lastly, there is a Keep browser extension that you can put at the top of your Chrome web browser. And when you're on a web page or see an image or some text or a quote that you like, you can press that Keep button, and then it will save it to your bulletin board in your Keep account. And then you can see that later, and you can take notes on that image or that quote, and you can use that later. So it's kind of similar to Pinterest or Evernote in that way, where you can clip things from the web and save them. So it might not be for everyone, but we wanted to share this tool because we use it and we like it. It's called Google Keep.
Yeah, and let me just make a note here too. When you were talking about the bright, shiny objects, I had that happen to me a while ago when I was working on a project, and I came across this really great record collection of newspapers, and I had this idea that I wanted to search for several different ancestors, but it was not part of my research plan. And so I really did not have an hour to go searching everybody in that thing. And so I just started a note on Google Keep. I'm so excited to get back to that. And I have the link to the collection and what I want to search on it. And so it really makes me feel like I don't have to, it helps me stay focused because I can make myself a note of things to do in the future. I don't have to not do things just because I don't have time right then. I have it saved out there. So I really like it. And can I just say I like the colors too? It's really fun to color coordinate.
Love color coding.
I like the look of it. So it works great.
That's funny. The thing that I thought of when you were just talking is that sometimes when we have our research project document open and we're researching and we think of something we want to do, it could be unrelated to that project. So it wouldn't make sense to put it in the future research suggestions or put it into our research plan because maybe it pertains to a different ancestor, like you said. So that's fun. That's a good idea to put it in Google Keep, and you'll just have it there with all your other sticky notes, and it's more organized. And the great thing about it is that if you end up getting a lot of notes, you can just search through them. There's a search bar at the top, and it's a really effective way to find what you are looking for. Mm-hmm. Just type in the search box, and it pulls up all your notes that have that. All right, I want to tell you a little bit more about some productivity tools that I use that are part of Google. So in Gmail, if you have a Gmail account and you like to use Google Calendar, there's a tasks application, and it works with Gmail and with Google Calendar. And it's kind of on the right side of Gmail. You click on the little blue circle with a white and a yellow thing inside of it. And you click on that and it opens up a list of all of your tasks that you've created. And you can drag and drop your emails into your task list if there's an email that goes along with the task that you want to do. And then you can put a deadline on it, and then it shows up in your Google Calendar. So if you're trying to work toward a goal and create a family history research report by a certain time, then you can put the specific tasks and the due dates and put them all into your calendar and kind of help you stay on track to accomplishing that goal or that book or that article that you're trying to write. So it's a really fun tool and an easy tool if you use Gmail. So I just wanted to mention it.
Wow, I really like that. I'm excited to try that. I'm actually trying it right now as you're telling me about that. So I'm going to have to play with that a little bit. That sounds like a great tool. I love how you help me keep on top of the latest and greatest productivity things. Let's talk a little bit about goals. You mentioned goals. And I think goals are really important for productivity because in genealogy, we have long-term goals. We have things we want to do. Like for me, one of my huge long-term goals was becoming an accredited genealogist professional. I mean, that was obviously, it took me a couple of years. It was a huge thing. But, I also want to get all of my photos digitized and uploaded. And I also want to go through all of my boxes of paper that's so lovely, I don't know what the word is, that's organized so well. And I want to make sure everything's digitized, or we might be wanting to write that family history book. We have these huge goals that we really want to do. So an important thing is to get those written down somewhere. Get that out of our head, put it on paper, put it in Evernote, put it in Google Keep, whatever, put it somewhere, and then break that up into manageable segments, short-term goals. So, for instance, if you are trying to create a locality guide for a state, for instance, on Virginia, and that's a huge project, then you could just say, okay, I'm just going to work on that for 3 hours today. Or you could say, I'm going to do a project in Virginia and work on my locality guide. Set some small goals. When I did accreditation, I had to do that. I needed 70 hours of research in Florida, where I had absolutely no research experience. So I just made myself on my Google Calendar. I would say, okay, I need to do 5 hours of Florida a week, whatever I'm going to do, whether it's locality guide or practicing research there, learning about the records. And that's basically how I got my accreditation done, was these short-term goals that all went towards that longer-term goal. And I would set deadlines for it. And of course, I would have to adjust my deadlines because sometimes they would come and go and I hadn't reached my goal yet. But I eventually got everything done. And I set my accreditation deadline, first of all, just for 1 year in 2016. And it didn't happen until the middle of 2017, which was okay. It's okay. As long as we set goals, we can move our deadlines out as we need to. So I use Google Calendar to set my goals. And I have monthly, weekly, and daily goals. So having things written down helps me make sure that I get to those things. So yeah, goals are good. Writing them down is even better. And then achieving them is the best.
That is so true. One idea that we wanted to share today is the 30 by 30 challenge. We originally saw this idea at Janine Adams' blog, the Organize Your Family History blog. And back in 2015, she posted that. And then in 2016, I decided to try it in January. So I started in the beginning of the month of January and decided that every day for 30 minutes, I would do some research. And I would just spend short increments of time every day doing one of my 4 goals. So I made 4 different goals. I was going to work on contacting living DNA relatives to find out our relationship. And then I had a goal to work on some of my Welsh ancestors. And I was also trying to find some family stories I could share with my children and some other small things. So these were my 4 goals. And as I did the 30-minute daily challenge for 30 days, I recognized that I was able to make a lot more progress, even though I wasn't spending that much time on it every day. But the consistency of working on it every day was really helpful. And announcing that I was going to be doing this challenge on the blog helped me to be more accountable. So if you are going to take on a challenge like that, it helps to have an accountability group, whether it's just a Facebook group that you're sharing it with, or your friends, or a partner. And accountability partners are really helpful. So then a couple weeks later, I posted on the blog some of the things that I learned that helped me to make more discoveries in my 30 minutes a day. And one of them was pretty obvious, but it was keeping notes in a cloud-based research log. So when I did that, then I could easily see what I had done the day before, and I could just go forward with it the next day. And another thing I noticed that helped was that I needed to review what I already knew about the people I was researching really carefully before I went forward, because I felt like I was finding the same things over and over again. So I tried to be better about reviewing the original records that I already had on the person and then going forward with using those clues to research for additional records. And then another strategy that helped me in my 30 by 30 challenge was to not get stuck on one person and spend overly too much time on them. So I would just record the negative searches in my research log and then move on to the next person, and not just spend hours and hours focusing on the one person that I couldn't find anything about. And then another strategy that helped me was at the end of each 30-minute session, which they weren't all 30 minutes. Sometimes I went on for an hour because I was having too much fun. But at the end of each session, I would make a list of 2 to 3 next steps that I wanted to take for the next day, because it would help me so much at the beginning of the next session of 30 minutes to know exactly what I wanted to do based on the last day. And that can be a hard thing to stop. It's hard to stop when you know what to do next, but being able to write it down and to say, this is what I'm going to do next, it made it a lot easier to stop and say, I'm going to pick this up tomorrow. So Diana also has used this type of strategy for doing difficult organization projects like scanning photos and organizing your files. So it can be really helpful for things that aren't fun, but that you really want to get done. Just setting a goal to do 1 paper a day. Scan this paper, create the citation, attach it to your person in your database, and then be done for the day. And you only had to do that 1 paper. One final thing that we wanted to share today is how to free up more time for your research by keeping a time journal. Diana and I tried this about a year ago. We wrote down everything that we did in a journal to see all of the time that we were spending on different aspects of our life. So we noticed that we were spending a lot of time doing meal prep and all kinds of different things, like emailing took a lot of time, and social media. So then after keeping track of all the things we did in a time journal, we were able to kind of prioritize and say, you know what, I don't want to spend that much time doing emailing. I'm going to limit the time that I check my email to just be this long, and I'll try to get it all done within that time. And it was interesting how just focusing on it that one time freed up a lot more time throughout the day, because I don't know if your phone notifies you every time you get an email, but that can be so distracting. Instead of reading emails as they come in, just reading them all at once in the evening or something like that. So that was a strategy that worked for us to free up more time for family history research. And another thing that I mentioned that took up a lot of time was social media checking. So just limiting how much time I spent on Facebook and Instagram, and actually kind of eliminated Instagram as a social media channel that I use very often. So if that works for you, you can do the same. So just check your time journal and see what you're spending your time on. And if it doesn't match up with your priorities, then you can try to change some things and not spend so much time doing the things that aren't as important to you. Any final thoughts, Diana?
No, I just think that it's good for us every once in a while to kind of think about where we're spending our time, how we're spending our time, and just evaluate. Maybe once a year do this, or every few months. Just do some evaluation to see if you're using your time the very best you can. So, yeah, I think that if you haven't been doing any of these things, try one thing at a time and see if it works for you, and then either get rid of it or adopt it and then try something else.
All right, that wraps up our episode for today. And thank you for listening. And we hope that you guys will write us a review on iTunes or Stitcher so we can reach more people through the podcast. All right, bye.
All right, bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Research Like a Pro with Diana Elder, accredited genealogy professional, and Nicole Dyer. We hope that something you heard today will help you make progress in your own genealogy research. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher, or visit our website, familylocket.com, to contact us. You can find our book, Research Like a Pro, A Genealogist Guide, on Amazon.com and other booksellers. We hope you'll start now to research like a pro.